Hi everybody, welcome to the very first ForFunFlyer live episode on YouTube. It's a pretty exciting moment for me and also a bit scary, terrifying, because it's nothing to correct in post-edit and editing software. So it's all live and hopefully the technology won't fail on me as well as my English. And if I ever get stuck halfway a sentence in English, then I'll just blame the internet connection. Yeah, welcome to the channel again. And this is the very first live session I'm doing, following the example of Mikey McBrien of Plane Savers and the Mentor pilot, doing just an awesome job on YouTube with live sessions. Well, again, welcome for joining. And also a special welcome to two moderators or hosts of the chat function of my YouTube channel. There's Kevin and Niels. They're both pilot friends of mine, and they'll be your host in the chat session of this episode. About the YouTube chat, when you type in a chat message and you respond in the chat box right beside the screen or on your mobile device right below the screen, that's all in real time. When you type in a message and you're expecting to see it on the screen, which is enabled later on in the interview, then there's a 10-second delay. So don't worry, your message will be viewed on the screen, but just bear in mind that this video data gets buffered throughout the world in full HD 1080p, so that's pretty impressive as well. And our guest is from Southern California, so there's just a lot of things going on with the technology right now. So let me see. I made some homework and a script. Yeah, well, that's basically it. Oh yeah, and for the questions, you feel free to join this episode by typing in questions on the chat, but we'll try to bundle them into a Q&A section at the end of this live episode. So if you have questions for my special guest of tonight, we'll try to answer all the questions in a Q&A section that will be about 10 minutes before the end of this session. So, well, then I think it's about time to bring in our guest. Let me see. So, let me see if I have the right shortcuts on my studio software. Okay, special welcome to Craig Hosking from South California. Hello, Greg.
Hi, Yomar. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too. Yeah, isn't this awesome, technology-wise? I'm here from the Netherlands, you in Southern California, talking to each other over the internet and broadcasting this live to the internet.
It's amazing. You try to explain this to my father or grandfather, and they would have thought we were absolutely crazy.
Yeah, beautiful. It makes the world a lot smaller, and I think now with the whole Corona crisis, it's just such a relief that we're now at this stage of technology that we're able to communicate via high definition video calling, etc., and just keep in touch with the people we love so much. I think it's just really nice during this crisis that it's possible. So, but it's nice to see you. It has been a while. Last time it was in September in Italy.
Yeah, that's right. We were up there working on the next big movie coming out of Warner Brothers.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll keep that little scoop for later on, I guess. So now I made a little description about your incredible story, and that's why you're on my show, because I think you're a really big inspiration to everybody that is just even barely involved in aviation, and well, at least to me, you're a big inspiration as well. So I'm really honored to have you on my show. I think it's nice to share your incredible story with the rest of people that are into aviation. So to start off with the beginning, can you introduce yourself to the people that are watching right now?
Yep, Craig Hosking. Made a living for several decades now as a movie pilot, flying airplanes and helicopters, in camera work and stunt work and film business.
Yeah, 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 and you just did just an incredible. That I watched your list on your website too, and I know of course of your story because we're friends and we see each other from time to time. But it's just insane. So you're a movie pilot right now, and we'll touch on that subject later on in the episode. But can you describe how you got into aviation and how it started all with you?
Well, I was the luckiest kid in the world when it comes to getting a start in aviation. I kind of sometimes feel guilty about telling the story because so many people have to struggle so hard to get their flight time. But I grew up as a kid learning to fly from my father. He was in the airplane and helicopter charter business, and so I had all the opportunities right there at my feet, and then I took advantage of them all.
Yeah, and so yeah, right at the moment you were born, your father was already into aviation. So you just grew up amongst planes and helicopters.
Not quite that young. My dad was a young, starving young husband working for his father-in-law in the exterminating business, the bug business.
Okay.
He started off doing that. Then he was drafted in the Army and became a pilot and served the U.S. Military as an Army pilot in both the Korean War and the Vietnam War. And then after Vietnam, he came home in the early 60s, or mid 60s by then it was, started flying for another helicopter company in the Mountain West in the area called Salt Lake City, Utah. And from there opened his own business in the late 60s. And then by then I was I guess 7 or 8 years old, and learned to fly airplanes when I was 8, and helicopters when I was 12.
But by the age of 12, this is just insane. I read somewhere that the children are really good in learning new stuff. But do you think starting that insanely early on helped you learning it all so quick?
Oh yes, with everything. If you're ingrained, you learn something young, it becomes a part of your DNA. It becomes second nature, and you don't even have to think about it after a while. It's just I often say since the area where I grew up was around farms, it's like farm kid on a tractor. A lot of the 8, 9, 10-year-old kids out there running their dad's tractors, and it's just how we were, except our tractor was an airplane or a helicopter.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that you did that. Your father mentored you, instructed you on flying, and later on you did the official flight training, because I know the story of you soloing at 16 or getting your license at 16. Well, what's the story about that? Being one of the youngest pilots out there?
Well, that's correct. Learning to fly and then actually being able to do it by yourself in a solo, or with licenses comes with certain ages. So in the U.S., they stage you can solo at 16, you can get your private license at 17, and you get your commercial license at 18. And so I got all of those licenses on those earliest birthdays in both airplanes, helicopters, and multi-engine airplanes.
So you were done being or becoming a commercial pilot at the age of 18. And then what kind of endorsements did you have, or what kind of type ratings?
Well, in the U.S. we have different categories for ratings, so we don't have to be typed in every single aircraft like we do all the rest of the world. So you get a single-engine land rating, you get a multi-engine land, and a rotorcraft helicopter. Those were the ratings I got at those states. And then from there, there are additional ratings that you can get for seaplanes, gliders, light air and air, things of that sort, and I've obtained several of those along the way over the years. But the first one was airplane single-engine land, airplane multi-engine land, and rotorcraft. And so I had my student at 16, my private at 17, my commercial at 18, and all three of those.
Okay, wow, that's just really, really young. So cool. And so your father was in later on in the helicopter charter business too. Did you directly start working for him, or what's the story about that?
Yeah, that was it. He had a company in the late 70s, early 80s. He was one of the biggest helicopter operators in the western United States. He had at one time about 200 employees, I think, and about 25 or 30 helicopters. So it was quite a big company, and of course that gave me an opportunity to fly a huge variety of aircraft.
Okay, yeah. Cool. And so that was only a helicopter, or also fixed wing kind of work, or
both. The airplanes were a portion of the support for the helicopter company. The helicopter company was generally doing oil and mineral exploration, mining, support, forestry work, a little bit of skier contracts, things of that sort. And then the airplanes we would just use for moving crews around or part support, things like that. Is with that many helicopters, there were a lot of bases of operation all throughout the western United States.
Okay, yeah, cool. And then so after that you moved into the world of air shows, etc. Or did you do something in between? What?
Well, I worked for my father's company, flying in those days. The support planes were a little Cherokee, which was really just a family trainer and family fun plane. We had a Comanche 400 and then a Cessna 421. And then the helicopters were Bell Jet Ranger, Hughes 500. Then we had Aerospace Yaw Products, Llamas, and Alouette 3s.
Okay.
So I playing those, having that variety of aircraft at our disposal.
Okay.
And so I did that for about 10 years, and then it started to look like I was just going to always go on in here at my father's company and continue to run it. But I also had just a little desire inside, sorry, Dustin, just a little desire inside to be able to do some other things rather than just work for my dad's company.
Okay.
And so I had this idea to get into the air show world with the upside down airplane.
Yeah, because I don't know if Steve Flight Shop is watching this, and he did a flight in a pitch special, and I think it's a nice segue. So Steve, if you're watching this, if you think landing and taking off a pitch special is tricky, watch this. I think this is really tricky to land and take off from. So how did you came up with the crazy idea to mount the landing gear on top of an aircraft and then do this stuff?
Well, that's exactly the thing. Everybody said it was crazy. I just used to go to a lot of air shows and then see people flying around doing upside down ribbon cuts and low aerobatics, and I was sitting at the Reno air races one time. These had to have been in the probably early 80s, and I saw a guy flying real low upside down. And I think, why didn't you just put some wheels up there and land? So explored a little bit, found out that you could make a little money in air shows. It's not a horrifically rich industry, but there's a couple bucks you can make, especially if you get a decent sponsor. As you see, I had Bose for a sponsor for several years.
Yeah.
So I dove in and learned aerobatics, and then built the plane and went from there.
Yeah. So did you have to change a lot of stuff on this airplane? Because I'm thinking directly on the technical kind of stuff, like oil and fuel system, etc. Did you have to change a lot for this double take?
A bit, yes. The airplane's built as an aerobatic airplane, so it has inverted oil system in it, and inverted fuel system.
Okay.
And so that was it's a Pitts S02B, so you're already starting with the symmetrical airfoil
Okay.
highly capable aerobatic aircraft. But there were a lot of things we had to solve, such as, well, for of course, the obvious structure that had to be added, but we also had to deal with the brakes. Think about the hydraulic fluid in the brakes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Those Western pilots watching, how did we keep the brakes working upside down as well as right side up? A system to get in and out of the plane because I could shut the engine down. We wanted to be able, of course, thinking about shutting the engine down of a Lycoming 6-cylinder opposing engine with the oil pan on the bottom of the engine and shut it down when it's upside down. So those are all things that we tackled and obviously overcame.
Yeah, and then just on the practical side of things, don't you get nausea, or just because you did? I saw a video of you from the mid-80s, and you were taxiing to a certain spot, and but the whole part of it was you hanging upside down in the aircraft. So didn't that result in any nausea, or were you so trained on being uncomfortable all the time doing aerobatics that it was all fine?
Yeah, once you get confident at aerobatics, that goes away. But that was still, time I would, part of the Air Show Act, I would actually land the airplane upside down, taxi up, and I think that's the video you're referring to.
Yeah, yeah.
And the audience upside down, and I'd get out of the plane. So we had a seatbelt system that could get me in and out. But from the time I would bend over, crank in the plane, get it started, taxi out, take off, it was often a good 5 to 10 minutes upside down in the plane. So the tolerance was a thing that I developed. But once I get good at it, it was just as normal as right side up.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's so counterintuitive that when you're trying to flare, instead that you pull it, you have to push just a little bit more to flare the airplane. And did it take long for you to get comfortable doing that, or?
Yeah, of course. I spent, before I ever thought about flying low and doing aerobatics, you spend hours and hours up high and hundreds of times practicing your aerobatic routine. So the thought and concept of all the controls working in reverse is automatic. You don't have to think about that anymore. That you have to think about it being right side up. When you're inverted, it's just instantly automatic. Of course, push forward on the stick to go up, pull back to go down, push left to go right, right to go left, kind of thing. So you just do it enough until it's just automatic.
Yeah, it's just I just can't wrap my head around it. That just becomes your normal habitat. It's just insane. Well, it's really inspiring. So, and then you told a bit about it, but from the airshow part of your flying career, you moved into the movie industry, and right now you're a movie pilot on high demand, as I can tell, because you're pretty busy, and it's nice that you found the time to talk to me on my live show. But perhaps it's nice to when we start moving our story into the movie part of your career, to show off your gear you're flying right now. So can you describe what airplane this is?
That's an Aerostar. It's there's a few models of the Aerostar, but that's the one with all the high power, big engine, double turbocharger, intercooler kind of mod airplane. Fastest piston plane built right now. So, or that was ever built, I guess, is their claim.
Okay, so when you look close at that picture, is that actually the pitot tube at the vertical, right at the vertical?
No, that's standard on all the Aerostars. Yeah, they put it way up there.
Okay, but because it comes in handy when you have a camera system which you want to mount in front of the airplane. But no, I thought, what kind of thing is that? But okay, that's a pitot tube. So and on this picture, I see two cameras. Is this the normal setup, a front-facing camera or in a rear-facing camera, so you can in one flight you get to shoot two cameras? What?
Yeah, it can fly with either the front camera, the rear camera, or both, as you see in that picture. that was taken up in Washington. We were doing introductory movie for Boeing for the 787-10 and the 737 Max. And
that's that video that Dreamliner just skyrockets like almost vertical into the air.
Yeah, that was a combination of shots that we did with the Aerostar that you see there, and then my A-Star helicopter with the same camera mount attached to it. But yeah, in that movie, they had wanted to make the airplane look like a rocket ship, and so that shot you're talking about is something we designed using the helicopter actually for that one, flying a path converging and intersecting with the takeoff trajectory of the airplane, and we definitely created the image that thing was going straight vertical.
Yeah,
performance.
That's a really epic video, and people that commented it on that video online were just blown away by what the heck, how is this even possible? So it's just and you were talking about your helicopter. So this is actually the helicopter you used on that shoot too.
Yeah, and as you see, it has the exact same camera system on the front of it that the Aerostar has.
Ah, okay.
It's got this. It's called a shot over F1 camera system, and so it goes on the helicopter or the plane.
So what the thing you provide your customers is the helicopter, of course, and your service, and all the way up to the mount where they attach the camera system into in that bay, so to say.
Well, yes, my business is the aircraft service, so I provide the aircraft needed for the movies. Along the way, my son, who I think you might have a picture too of, that we'll get to, has advanced himself as a cameraman. He started off shooting entry-level stuff in our world. It's called reality TV, where the camera guys start their way up. And then once he had a few years of that, in credits and credibility, we started using him as the aerial cameraman. And so now he sits in the airplane or helicopter right beside me and operates the camera while I fly the aircraft.
Yeah.
And then just within the last year or so, he bought his own shot-over camera system. So it's basically his camera and my aircraft, and we're partners in it.
Yeah, so this is a picture of Ryan. Obviously, I know Ryan too. I dropped him a pack of stroopwafels the last time we saw it, and he took 2 stroopwafels as a commission to get the rest of the pack to you. So that was a funny story.
I know, I've stroopwafels over the years.
Yeah. Sorry for the additional calories from my side, but yeah. So this is a picture of you and Ryan you talked about, and it was pretty high up, seeing the latitude of that sign over there. So what's the story of this picture?
Well, it's a big Ford commercial we did about 4 or 5 years ago. We developed a system where I can transport my helicopter to remote locations in a trailer, and so we were hired to go up to way up in northern Canada. To an area that's basically the end of the paved road, so we towed the helicopter up there in the trailer, and then pulled it out and did the Ford commercial.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, so that's let me check into that. I have another picture of him as well. So let me swap that. That's not only you and Ryan, and that's Mr. Eastwood, isn't it?
Yeah, that was a few years ago. We were working on American Sniper, and that was a film that Clint did. Won a lot of awards. So yeah, Ryan's there with me. Ryan's operating the camera. I'm flying the helicopter, and Clint's a longtime friend. I don't know, probably. Well, I'd have to do the math on it. I bet it's 25 years ago, 20 to 25 years. You know how the years fly. Probably 25 years ago, I taught Clint to fly helicopters.
Oh, okay. Wow.
We worked on several films together, and flying back and forth from location. We want the dual controls in, and so yeah, it was probably let me see, 88, 89, 90, somewhere in there. He dedicated a few weeks of time, and we taught him to fly.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know that the first time Jitske and I, that's my girl, by the way, for the viewers. But that Jitske and I stayed at your place, and there's this special room with little notes from just the biggest directors of the world. It's just mind blowing. It's just what the heck is it? It's just insane how many people, and it's logical, of course, when you're working in the ranks you are working in, that you get to know a lot of people, but it's just also some other pictures later on the show, and it's just mind-blowing that you're is it honest to say you're one of the go-to guys of top build directors and producers for doing aerial shots?
Yeah, it's a very small little niche job. There's probably 5 or 6 of us that worldwide that make a good living at it.
Okay.
There's probably another 15 or 20 guys that do quite a bit of work. But for those of us that do the majority of the work, it's pretty fun, pretty exciting.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, and this one was the questions I wrote early on. So, how did you become a movie pilot? How did you moved into this world? Because it's not something you learn in flight school. There isn't a movie helicopter course. I think you can do. Is it?
No, not at all. There's nothing like that exists. My path took me from the air show world. And part of the story about my father's business is I learned to fly from him and got into the air show world. As we all talk about a world recession that we might be facing right now with COVID. In the late 80s, there was a huge recession here in the United States that was related to the oil and banking industry. And since my father's company was deeply involved in the oil business, while I was out on the air show world kind of doing my own thing for a few years, thinking I was going to do air shows and then cycle back to my dad's business, his business went under. So he was able to come out with his home and a few personal assets, but he had to liquidate his business under a bankruptcy. So that left me with the air show world, but the air show world's not something you want to do a long time forever, because you're 30 or so 4-day weekends a year, vagabond lifestyle. I was a young father with 2 kids, and so I didn't want to miss life just by focusing with just the air show world. So I started looking at a way to parlay that into this little niche business of movie pilot that I know of. And the generation of pilots before me, as I've said, it's only 4 or 5 guys worldwide that make a living doing it. From those people, they would use to come up from Hollywood to Utah, where my family's company was based, and they'd use my dad's helicopters to work on movies around there. So I knew a few of those guys, and so I started just hanging out in Hollywood and knocking on doors. And that's the pathway that I created to bring me into the business.
Okay, so that's now I can imagine it's just really hard work, and a lot of people tend to see someone else's success, but you put in a lot of effort getting there, and you told me in personal too, but it's just really admirable that you went for it and you got to the place where you're right now. So it's just I think it's worth a big compliment, and it's just I think it's just insane. So, so speaking about movies, what are your, and I think it's a really tough question, but what are your 5 most favorite movie project or commercial project you ever did?
Boy, oh, that is a tough one. I've done probably 250, I think, movies, and probably about the same number of commercials. So I'd have to say I have 500 favorites. Every one of them is something really exciting to do.
Okay.
I don't know if you're going to pin me down on movies, on features. You'd mentioned Dunkirk. That was epic. With one of my best work friends. He's the director, guy I really admire, and have been a part of a lot of his films. So that would be one. American Aviator, that's the director, Chris Nolan.
This is Chris Nolan, right? And perhaps a little segue, but perhaps you can tell a bit about the engineering part, because you're not only a pilot and you know your stuff about filmmaking, but there's a lot of engineering involved too with this aircraft. What are we looking at right now?
Well, what we've got there is a very unique aircraft. Chris is the type of director that wants to see everything done for real in camera, which means he doesn't like using visual effects. He doesn't like using green screens. He wants the actors and the action to be real. Yeah. So in that aircraft, we took the front cockpit and converted it. That's a Yak 55 tail dragger. We took the front cockpit and converted it to look like a Spitfire.
Okay.
On the left cowling, you'll see the 3 Spitfire exhaust pipes there. Those are rubber. The real aircraft exhaust comes out the bottom like a normal Yak.
Yeah, awesome.
The cockpit itself was converted to a Spitfire. Everything in that cockpit where you can see the actor is Spitfire. The gun, the controls, the gun sight, the seats, everything like that. And then Chris likes to shoot with IMAX, which is the largest camera format that exists.
Yeah.
So we put the camera out on the wing of that plane to film the actor acting like he was flying it. And then that's me, you can see in the back seat with the helmet and all the camera controls taped in there for me. Let's go.
And then speaking about aerodynamics, how does it feel to fly with a table-sized camera just sticking on one of the wings? That must be just scary as crazy, right?
That's the worst flying aircraft. That and one of my other favorite shows we might want to talk about is was the Rocketeer, but that was a GB that I flew in that show. But that Dunkirk plane that you're showing there, the Yak Spitfire, and the GB are the 2 most horrible flying planes I've ever been in. But that, in fact, we filmed that in Lillestad. That picture right there is taken, I think, in Lillestad.
Lelystad. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that was actually a part of the production of Dunkirk in the Netherlands, and there are some people that were wondering what our relation is to each other, and it's not that I know you for my whole life, but I'm always really cautious about disclosing too much that would breach my non-disclosure agreement with Warner Brothers. So I want to be really careful with what I share. But so we met each other doing crazy stuff on the crossroads between special effects and aviation. I think that's about it. And how would you describe what you did together with me and the part of the rest of the aerial unit?
Well, as we mentioned, Chris is all about filming things as realistically and lifelike as they can. And that's where we sure appreciated your help on as that part of the film unfolded.
Oh yeah.
But in all cases, he's about realism and not taking the computer generated image effects of replacing his creative filmmaking.
Yeah, exactly. So, I see a couple of questions already popping in the chat about my involvement, etc. But again, I'm just really cautious about disclosing too much. But another question, it's just a bit stupid question, but how would you rate the stuff we did on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well,
11?
Not working for Chris, everything's a 10. We get if once he sees our ideas or suggestions will enhance the operation of the film, we'll get pretty much a blank check, of course, within reason, to go out and do what's necessary to give him the most realistic looking images that he wants.
Yeah. It's just beautiful. So yeah, that's of course one of my favorites. But again, I just have done 2 movies, so that's I don't have a long list of favorite project. Let me just do it with another approach. I got some pictures of you, and this is the folder that is called on my computer Action Shots. So and perhaps you can describe what we're looking at and what you did right there. So. This looks pretty violent to me.
Yeah, that's a snap from a movie called Need for Speed that we did, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. It's in the same vein as the Fast and Furious movies, and I've done a few of those as well. But yeah, that's just an epic action shot that somebody got a picture of the helicopter right down. You see over to the right side of the frame, a car, you're looking at the belly of a car that's just smashed into that hill. And on the left side is a camera crew up against the freeway on the left. You see the guys tucked in behind the camera. An exotic car, I think that one is a Conisari. I think it's driving, and I think it's a Pagani that's crashing. And then the helicopter right there in the chase, and then the second helicopter back there is a camera helicopter filming it all from above.
So the part of you doing this particular job was doing the film camera or the front camera?
Both. Often I'll end up flying the camera helicopter. That's kind of the field command place to be, because you can see all the action as it's lining up and put the camera in the exact position where they want it. And others, it's flying the story or the subject aircraft where you're in close, tight, and right in the middle of the action. So that's a good example of kind of both hats we wear: camera helicopter, action helicopter.
So I can imagine that it takes a lot of briefing, right? Who does what, and I can only imagine the amount of work that goes into planning, and there's just a long journey, I guess, between an idea and executing that idea, right?
Exactly, and that's the thing when you look at the picture of that big IMAX camera on the wing of the airplane, as well as this helicopter here. Those are born out of meetings that you have with the director. And the director says, here's what I want to see. Yeah. And in some cases, I'll give the director the freedom to just tell me anything he wants to see. And I'll remove the responsibility from him. Don't you audit in your creative vision what you think we can or can't do, or what is or isn't safe. That's my job to answer what's safe and what we can do. And so just dream it and throw it out there. Yeah. And through flight with Chris, I want to be able to see this actor looking through this window in live action. I don't want it fake. And everybody laughed when he said, "Can you put the camera out there?" But I did, and so we figured out how to do it. Yeah. And then with that shot, the director says, all right, I want to see the car, I want to see the explosion, I want to see the car flipping over, I want the helicopter right down, I want the dirt clods flying up, and tell me what you can do. Yeah. And in that right there, what we've actually done, see the helicopter looks like it's right there over the red car, and see the dirt clod coming up looks like it's going to hit the helicopter.
Yeah.
The helicopter's actually about 30 to 40 feet behind that red car. And so it's got some room ahead. It's composed in there with a long lens that'll make us look closer, but in fact there's some distance there that the helicopter's behind the car. Long lens makes us look closer. We've got a little bit more room to dodge the dirt clods or the tires that come flying off the car or whatever. You've got a little bit more latitude there than what it looks like.
Yeah, it's all about tricking the viewer into something that you want. It's almost like a magic show, right? And it's just all about lenses and perspective, etc. And there's actually one viewer that is a pretty big fan of the channel. His name is L01 from the UK. and he was a professional filmmaker for I think a broadcast company. So Al will get back to your specific questions on cameras and lenses, etc. later on at the Q&A. So just hang in there for a bit. But no, it's nice to see. So let me go to the next shot, because this one is pretty awesome too. So what's this?
That's a King Air 200 we took to Hawaii for one of the Jurassic Park movies. I think it's Jurassic 3 or 4. Oh. And we've just landed, and the characters have got out onto Jurassic Park, and they're trying to rescue whoever they're trying to rescue. And we hear the dinosaurs coming, and so we all jump in the plane and we try and take off. And just to the left there, you'll see a big light with the screen set up.
Yeah.
That's where the dinosaur's coming out of the trees there. And just as I take off, right as I rotate right there, the dinosaur jumps up and grabs the front of the airplane, and we crash.
Okay. Oh boy. Yeah, that's a bit bad of a twist, but yeah, it's just insane. So how did you plan this? You just took off and keep it at a really low altitude, and just I mean, how?
Well, we've got quite a short dirt strip there, and the aircraft looks like we've just taken off, but what you actually do is a touch and go. Something you bring it in and put the aircraft on the ground, but then you hold flying speed throughout, and you hold a good crisp wing is the terminology I like to use. You're quite a bit above a normal rotate speed, so you've got a crisp wing under the airplane. Oh. So the minute you pull the nose up, you're going up. So we're there coming down the runway on the ground, about 110 miles an hour, and then right before we get to the point where we're going to take off, full power, good crisp pull up, you've got a good crisp wing, and away you go. And then we come up just a few feet above those lights and see the camera crew on the right side. Yeah. They're operating the camera remotely. If you look to the left where that light is, you can also see a remote control head right there on the ground. And the camera guy on the right, a guy named Shelley, is the cameraman.
Okay, yeah. I can imagine on those occasions that even though it's remotely controlled, that camera, that everybody ducks, I guess, when you're so close, right? It's just insane.
And that's when they go then for a composite shot with the digital effect dinosaur coming out.
Okay. Yeah.
So all your Park fans, I don't know whichever one it is. I think it's 4. I don't know. Should have known. But where the dinosaur crashes that airplane.
Yeah, cool. And I prepared the next shot. Is this a picture of you chasing James Bond?
Yeah, that is film Quantum of Solace. That's the Aerostar camera system on it. And this Turbine Cy Marchetti, well-known, world-renowned warbird flyer Steve Hinton's flying the Cy Marchetti there. I'm flying the Aerostar, and he's attacking James Bond, who's in a DC-3, which is not a very fair fight when Marchetti's going to attack a DC-3. But of course, once James Bond is James Bond, he's able to escape.
Yeah.
Marchetti's attack.
Of course, yeah. But to sum it up, you get paid to chase James Bond. It's just like that. It must be living a dream, or not?
Exactly.
Yeah, this is just an awesome picture. But yeah, it just this is another action shot. So this is something completely different. I'm wondering about the story of this picture. What's happening right here?
Well, that's a camera system that we've developed that can put a camera in places you can't put an aircraft or a drone. There we're down in Tahiti in a famous surfing wave called Chopu, and we're filming a commercial for a director that wanted to have the camera right in the wave, right in the tube. So I'm flying the helicopter by vertical reference long line. I'm leaning out the window, looking down at the camera, and then the camera system's in a water protected housing on a lens. I mean, on a remote control arm. Ryan's sitting there beside me, operating the shot, and we were able to put that camera right down in the tube in front of the surfer, right down in the spray, as he comes out of the tube.
Yeah, that's aren't you afraid that you'll one big wave, somewhat bigger wave, will catch the camera system or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
There's not enough mass surface area for that camera system to pull us out of the sky. Had it got it completely, if I'd have really screwed up and put it right smack in the way, we still have the ability to pull it out of the way.
Okay.
And of course, at all times you have a pickle switch, a way I could release it there in the aircraft if there's an emergency procedure, something horrible happens. And then all the camera gear hanging there, like I say, the camera itself is in a housing, but the head, some of the motors for the head, the little torpedo that it hangs from, are not waterproof. And so in that case, it's the director's decision, the producer's decision who has to write the check, and the guy that owns the control head of how deep and wet they'll let me get it. In this case, it was a well-financed commercial. So the owner of the head and the producer came to an agreement that if Craig splashes it in the water, we'll buy the head. We want the shot that bad, and so we stuck it right in there. And this director was one of those lower, closer. So. We got the shot. We got a cool shot. Then he wanted more, and we did. We stuck it right away, and we trashed the head.
Oh, really? Oh, you ended up trashing the head.
That's right. Yeah. I mean no, and we were. You carefully get into it to make sure you get the commercial. You can't go stick it in the wave and trash it right off the bat. So you nibble away. Yeah. But right there, we're really close to we're 12 inches or less from the top of a 15-foot wave, and we're already in the spray. And so then as we work that closer and closer, eventually you're going to get burned. And we knew that the agreement was in place to pay for the head if I splashed it. So I splashed.
I can imagine that insurance companies aren't your biggest friends doing this kind of work.
It wasn't even an insurance claim because we had discussed the fact that this is pushing boundaries and it's likely to happen, and you can't make an insurance claim when you know your odds are high you're going to go break something. It's just got to be done in the budget, and so
I see.
$1,000, whatever the cost of that head is, was just cost of doing business.
It's just insane the amount of money involved in just a commercial, right? It's just mind blowing. I think an average Joe won't even consider that to be an issue, but that's pretty expensive work, I guess.
It can be. It can be, and of course, without an agreement in place, that all right, now we're pushing past. And when I look at the safety items, I always look at the penalty phase. If something's going to go wrong, that's going to hurt somebody, kill somebody, unnecessarily damage equipment, then the risk level is going to be really, really low. You just can't tolerate any risk. But if the risk is, we're going to crash a car in a stunt movie, or in this case, we might stick a head in a wave, then you all have a meeting and say, okay, I'm at the end of my limits of where I can assure safety.
Yeah, okay.
You want me to lower closer, there's going to be a dollar figure.
Yeah.
And so then we'll go break if that's part of what they want. But again, that's a low penalty phase because nobody's getting hurt. We're all going home. I can punch the camera off. And so then we'll take a pretty high risk in something like that.
Yeah. Talking about risk, and I know that You're well. I think the story is documented in like 3 documentaries, so we'll just touch up briefly on that subject. But there was this movie job that went wrong in '92, and can you just tell the really short, brief version of what happened on that job?
Yeah, we were working on a project in Hawaii, and the task was to film the inner parts of the real life volcano, the event. It's called the Pu'u'o event, part of the Kilauea volcano chain. And they wanted shots with the camera looking like we were diving into the crater. And of course, nobody's going to fly into a crater. But we had a camera on the nose of the aircraft that would rotate forward and down as we flew over the top of the crater. And as the camera tilts down, we could zoom on the lens, and it looked like we were going into the crater, but we weren't. We were a safe distance above it. One of the runs as we approached the crater, the aircraft had a governor linkage failure. Okay. And when that happens, without going into all the technicalities, it's like an engine failure. Okay. So at that point, you have to auto-rotate. The outside of the crater was so steep, if I'd have gone out there to the outside, it would have been a fatal rollover. Instant decisions you make very, very quickly as things are going to pot on you. So the safest place, believe it or not, to land was on the inside of the crater floor. Yeah. So we rotated inside a rocky surface area. When I got to the ground, had a successful flare, stopped the rate of descent. Nobody was injured, but the only terrain was kind of in heavy boulder-sized rocks the size of a car. And so just kind of stuffed it in between the rocks and broke the helicopter. But everybody was down safe. And then the challenge was, of course, getting out of a live volcano. But over what would be a 2-hour story, over a period of a couple of days, all 3 of us were rescued, and everybody's safe and fine.
Yeah, well, what I learned from the documentaries, well, as I said before, there were 3 in total, that you were pretty doing some MacGyver stuff with detaching a battery, etc. And of course there was also luck involved, but I think haven't you tried and kept on trying, etc. I probably wouldn't have talked to you right now, I think.
Yeah, that was one of the days that it could have ended badly.
Yeah. Well, luckily you didn't, and I'm really glad that I'm able to talk to you and then even met you. So, of all your career, and I know this by fact, but you probably have earned a lot of awards, right? And I just, like I said before, just can I stayed at your place for a bit in 2017 and 18, and it's just like there, I don't know if you have even enough room to stack all the awards, and one of, I don't know if it's the most rewarding one you earned, but this is a picture of living legends of aviation, right? So that's an award too, with a ceremony and all, or?
Well, the living legends of aviation are 100 unique individuals that have had impact in aviation in a variety of different ways. Industry leaders, inventors, record setters, pioneers, and it's just a group of people who have, I think part of their tag is celebrities that have become pilots, or pilots that have become celebrities, but just people that have distinguished themselves in their careers. And so, I was invited to be one of the 100 living legends of aviation there, along with that group.
So, and then looking at the group, and there's just one you can describe at the end, because I have a close-up of you two. But can you walk us through who's on the picture? And
the host there right beside me is John Travolta. He's a pilot, of course, is an actor and a celebrity. Yeah. And then that's the little gold medallion they give you that put you in as one of the 100. And then as people pass on, others are invited to join. Rod Ellis is right beside me. He's big warbird fleet owner in the United States.
Okay.
I don't remember every one of those by name. Second from the right is the son of Igor Sikorsky, the inventor of the helicopter.
Okay. Wow.
Success with the Sikorsky. On the far right in the military uniform is a man from the Vietnam War who was a Medal of Honor winner and had conducted several rescue operations, and I think was attributed to saving the lives of over 400 people. So, epic, epic industry achievers.
Yeah. So, was there a particular job you did that caused you that initiated your approval to get to the Living Legends of Aviation? Was there one particular job they liked so much that they?
No, that's generally they're looking at the overall body of work, the career that you've had, the type of success you've had within your particular industry. And I was nominated for the number of movies that I've done and the success I've had in Hollywood, beginning as a springboard of the airshow business.
Yeah. Okay. So it was that you were already on the scope of the people that were involved in Living Legends of Aviation, and at a certain moment you made it to the ranks or.
Yeah, several of them I've known along the way for a lot of years, and several of them were new acquaintances and now associates of mine.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So let me check what pictures I have here as well. This is a picture I got from you as well. Well, it doesn't need a lot of explaining. So this is your wife, right, Becky?
That, in addition to my wife, that's the most beautiful woman in the world.
Yeah. Well, I disagree. I think it's Jitske, but I'll get into a big fight, of course. Now, every time I see a picture of her, it just looks like she walked out of a magazine. It's just, yeah. Beautiful. So let me check some other picture. Oh, that was one. Oh yeah, this is the bunch of people you took for the ride in Los Angeles in 2017. That was a fun ride right there.
Associates of Argio and Jitske, and then
John Downey and Katie from California. So actually, for the people that are watching this right now, the guy to the far left is a special effects foreman, and he owns an array of pyro licenses. So I always explain to other people that if you want to blow stuff up in the United States legally, then you have to ask John to the left here.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's.
They've become friends through the same work projects that you and I have, and John and Katie babysit our dogs sometimes when we're out of town. So they.
Oh, cool. Okay.
They live quite close by me.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So it's just I feel so lucky that I stumbled into the movie industry. If you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I would have said, no, that's impossible. How do you even get started in that industry? But all of a sudden, my cell phone rang, and a couple of days later, I was doing some crazy stuff. That is just it's that memories for life, I would say. So. Yeah, so I think we're almost at the end, and let me check the chat and if one of the hosts can Kevin, can you sum up the questions I have, or are there so many? It's one of the hosts that keep an eye on the chat. So let me check if we can sum some questions up.
One of them there, while you're looking, also I had seen a couple from Al about the cameras. The Shopper camera system is a gyro stabilizing system.
Okay.
It's able to accept a variety of cameras and lenses. Ryan owns an Alexa Mini. That's a camera that we'll often rent out a lot. A lot of the major film makers like the look of the digital image that a Mini makes, the Alexa camera makes, because it looks a lot more like film. It'll also accept all of the red cameras, and it'll accept a variety of lenses. The normal one we'll use is a 10-to-1. those cameras are all shooting 35. Going a little bit technical into here,
Yeah.
over for Al.
Yeah.
They shoot full-size 35 millimeter chips. Al knows that if he's talking about reds.
Yeah.
So with spherical or anamorphic lenses shooting into a 35 millimeter chip.
Wow, that's I think that covered a lot of Al's questions again. As a retired, this is one cool question. As a retired broadcast cameraman who hangs out of many of helicopters, would you agree it's the pilot who makes the shots?
It's definitely a synergy. The pilot's got to put the camera in the right place. If the camera's not in the right place, the cameraman can't make the shot. And so and that's part of what led me into Hollywood is I used to shoot stills as a hobby. I published some underwater shots. I published some landscapes. I understand the camera. I understand all the intricacies of how a camera's going to expose an image. When I was a kid, we had a dark room in our basement, and we print our own photos. And so understanding camera from A to Z is in the same DNA that the pilot part of me is. Yeah. So that's a huge advantage then when you're bringing the camera into Hollywood. So I know what the camera's got to see, but I can't, and so I can put the camera there. I can put the foreground, the background, the layers, the light, do all that. But the cameraman's got to be equally smooth, graceful, finesseful in his operation of the camera, the pan, tilt, roll, zoom, frame rates, exposures. It's definitely hand in glove between me and the cameraman.
Yeah, cool. So this is actually a question of one of the chat moderators. This is Niels from Dutch Aviation Blog. By the way, he has his own aviation YouTube channel too. But he asked this question. It's a tricky one. But Greg, personally, in what aircraft do you feel safer, fixed wing or rotary wing?
On the environment. If I'm flying over mountainous terrain, cities, even water, I'd rather be in a helicopter because you can put it on the ground in a small parking lot in an emergency situation without hurting people.
Yeah. Okay.
But night IFR on a icing snowy night. Of course, I love that twin engine Aerostar with three electrical systems in it and heater and known icing situation. And I like being at 25,000 feet above the snowstorm. Yeah. So I like it like I said before. Favorite, can't give you a favorite movie, can't give you a favorite aircraft. But those are the things, of course, in a helicopter, you're not going to be flying night IFR, but airplane you can. So answer is everything. Okay. Let me check what else is here. Oh yeah, this is from Flying Cup. He's wondering how much of your work is done by drones. Well, that's a fair question, I think. But some of the work you did back in the day is shifted towards drones, and I think Ryan is involved in the drone business too. But I don't know. Can you tell us a bit about that? Sure. It's a new tool that's come along in the last 5 years, last decade. Really, we've seen it in a few years, and in the last 4 or 5 years. And it's a new tool. It came along in a way that will enhance the filmmaking process. Doesn't replace helicopters. Doesn't replace airplanes. You can't get the big wide overall vistas. You can't fly, high, far, and wide enough to accomplish some of these shots that we do. But they definitely have their place, and so we saw a bit of effect. It didn't hurt me, but some of the other fringe guys that don't do a lot of the higher dollar features were hurt by drones. But I was lucky enough that most of the projects I work on, they're still going to use the helicopter or the airplane.
Okay, yeah, okay. This is a question of Rory on air. Rory Osprey is a British guy that just recently started his commercial helicopter flight training, and he has his own YouTube channel too, Rory on air. And this is a question of him. What tips have you learned from your experiences operating at the edge of the envelope with helicopters that could help keep a new helicopter pilot like myself that bit safer? So what, in general, what kind of tips do you have for him as a new helicopter pilot?
Always think about 5 moves ahead of what's going to happen with the action you make right now.
Okay.
Just the people. It's so much a part of flying is judgment, not just physical skill. Of course, there's got to be a skill and a talent, can't be replaced. But thinking ahead and what's going to be the effect 5 moves from now about what I'm about to do. So.
So yeah, and then with fixed wing airplane, you will always have to be 5 minutes before the airplane. So, but in helicopters, that's even more of an issue.
Absolutely, because there's more ways to get in trouble. There's more things that can go wrong. There's more dumb mistakes a pilot can make because you're operating in a third dimension world. You're in environments that you never get into with an airplane, and so. Because the aircraft's more capable, it's also more capable of making the pilot an idiot by doing dumb things that you didn't think through.
Yeah, yeah. That brings back a memory of that helicopter flight we did with Katie and John and Jitske over the sunsetting skyline of Los Angeles, which was gorgeous. But I remember a certain moment that I thought to myself, okay, helicopter flying is pretty tricky. And all of a sudden, I see you making a shot with your cell phone. And I thought, oh, wait a minute, those are both his hands. How the heck is he flying this thing? So you were actually flying the helicopter with your knees. So,
well, that's the thing, because the cyclic, unless you're in an autopilot aircraft, which I rarely fly, especially helicopters, but you can't ever let go of the cyclic. But part of something you'll learn as a pilot, and when I was an instructor, I would teach it and make people learn is how to briefly stabilize the aircraft with your knees, so you can use both hands. Back in the day, you had to fold maps. Now we just click a little button. But yeah, how to fold a map, how to take off your jacket while you're flying. Those are kinds of things I would teach guys. Because you're not going to do that forever, but you do need to be competent and capable of being able to let go for a minute to use both hands if you need to. So
So then what would you estimate? How many hours do you accumulate it up until now? If you make a rough estimate.
Best guess, and I haven't done a perfect logbook all my career, but I have about 23,000 total flying hours, and about equally split. About 12 or 13 in airplanes and 10 or 11 in helicopters. Or no, vice versa. About 12,000 in helicopters, 11,000 in airplanes, or something like that.
Just insane. I just barely started compared to you. This is ridiculous. Okay, so I've got a question of pilot Bambi. I know her from flying pretty sophisticated and high performance microlight airplanes, and she's also a commercial pilot. Started her own vlog, and this is an interesting question. Have you ever had to turn down a job because the request was too crazy? And if so, do you have any examples?
Well, I wouldn't say turn it down. The job is, like I said, let the director dream anything he or she wants to, and then tell them how we can do it. And so, yeah, very often I'm asked to do things that are outside the realm of physical possibility. But the answer, you don't say no. You say, here's how we can do it.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And create then the opportunity to accomplish what he's asking for and not die.
Yeah, that's a minor detail. But I can imagine that there are these creative mind that just, and it's a nice thing that you won't block their creative process too much. But I can imagine that there's an upper limit to what you dare to do, even for your standards, of course. Okay, that's funny. Let me see if there's some other questions as well, because they're pouring pretty much. Let me see. Okay, here's a question. Can you describe the challenges associated with filming the Revenant in Montana, specifically pulling the raft out of the river?
Who knows that story?
I don't know. It's not Neb. I don't know. Perhaps it's a mutual acquaintance. I don't know who this is, but
Well, here's what happened on Revenant. We were up there shooting, and we had that long line camera system that you saw on the wave in Chopu, filming quite low level of a raft going through the rapids, and so as that was happening, that was one of those lower, closer kinds of things. And so once again, we went to the producers and to the head owner and said, all right, any lower, it's going to splash. And so we changed a few things, put the cameras in housing, and we splashed it. So we got the shot, but then they were used to seeing me operate the camera system quite low and close, and understood what long line capabilities are. So later they were filming with a raft that had cameras on it that was going down through the rapids. And when they get down to the bottom, I'd pick up the raft and carry it back up to the top with all the camera gear in it. And then the guys would drive around real quick, and that way they could get the raft reset rather quickly. And then last shot of the day, as Murphy's Law would have it, the raft goes down and it gets into the rapids and it capsizes. Oh, and then part of the story is that right below the rapids, about a half mile down, is a bridge, and then just beyond that's a real live waterfall where
oh, gee.
yeah, raft capsizes. The guys are really smart in the river, and they know there's an exact spot that they've got to jump and swim out and get into the eddy, or else they're in risk of maybe ending up in the waterfall. So the raft capsizes, and I told them, if that ever happens, look up real quick, and you might see a hook coming out of the sky and hook it to the raft. And sure enough, they capsize, and as they're trying to get their act back together, and of course all the cameras are dragging upside down, hitting the rocks. But the guy, just as he left the raft, hooked me to it, and then he swam away to safety. And then I'm fishing around with the helicopter trying to get the raft pulled out of the water before I get to the bridge, or the raft goes over the falls. And we got it out with about 10 seconds to spare. And of course, as I've said, always I can just pickle it and I can fly away. So so we saved a raft and a bunch of cameras from going over the waterfall that day.
It's just insane, and this is just one of those epic stories. And I'm wondering, it's not. I think it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when your whole life story would be produced into a feature film yourself. It's just the stories you can tell. I could listen literally all week to your stories. It's just. We haven't touched up on a lot of topics I know of, but it's just insane. So, but let me see if there is just one last tip. Rory on air says thank you for the tips, and so that's nice. Mentor Pilot, that's a big YouTuber as well. He has almost 600,000 subscribers. So hi to Mentor. Let me see if there's something else. I think. That sums it up. So I think it's a nice time to wrap this up. Let me see if I can. Is there something else you want just insane story you want to share with the viewers before we go?
I was just flipping through some of your questions as well here, and you have obviously some very aviation and film savvy viewers. So yeah, it's fun to talk to a group of compatriots who have the same interests and love in our life and our avocations.
Yeah, and working together also brings you a bit of Dutch, right? So yeah, you're almost in the process of not calling me Ollie anymore.
That's a funny thing for those viewers that don't know. When you and I first met, we were in an environment where you were in the seat of a helicopter, and I had to be able to communicate very quickly to you to some instructions on how to do what you were doing to match what I was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And the name Yolmer just didn't ring. So I remember turning around in the helicopter and going, Yolmer, that's too hard. I'm just going to call you Ollie.
Yeah, exactly. And you started it, and it took like just 1 hour, and everybody at base camp and at the UAV site, everybody was calling me Ollie this and Ollie that. So I actually made business cards. The second week I was there with Yolmer, with the pilot nickname Ollie on the card. So that was funny. So yeah, great times. And as said, I can stretch this live session just for days on end, but I think it's nice to wrap this up. So again, thank you so much for doing this and for taking the time to I think also inspire others to do something in aviation, because your enthusiasm and it rubs off on people. So thank you very much, and of course also thanks for being a friend. So yeah.
Likewise. We'll look forward to the next time we're together.
Yeah, sure, yeah. And for the people that are watching, I'm about to close this live session, and thanks for watching. And if you're new to the channel, you're watching this content for the very first time, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because it's the biggest compliment for a YouTuber to get more subscribers, and it's free, of course, and it's only about a 2-second job. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do that, and I'll hope to see you next time. And well, Greg, thanks again, and say hi to Becky for me.
Thanks, Ian. You're certainly welcome, and thanks to you, and of course, stay safe.
Yeah, you too. Stay safe and healthy. Okay, bye-bye.